Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, within your third period classes, please, you can read your essays or have other conversations about gun violence within your third period class group. You may begin.
Let's try to find somebody.
Are they reading some things in these groups here?
Classes, Christian, Divine.
You met somebody who's
He doesn't want to speak.
What's your name? Davion. Can we talk to you? Spell your name. D-A-V-I-O-N. Last name? C-A-T-L-E-T-T. Catholic. And how old are you?
14.
Okay. Tell me, why is it important to be out here today observing the Columbine anniversary?
We out here today because we saw people who lost their life during a school shooting. 16 years ago, I think it was. And so we come out here to support people who died during the shooting and survivors.
So, have school shootings touched you? Why, as young people, are you out here?
Because people go to school every day, see their friends getting killed, best friends, family members, and now everybody put a stop to it. These killings in the streets and in schools.
Do you think you can make a difference?
Yes.
Do you think you can make a difference? So
Yes.
tell me why. Why do you think you can make a difference?
If Donald Trump get the guns on the street, we probably have not less issues in the streets.
Have you personally witnessed any violence like that?
No, not yet.
And you don't want to?
No.
What can be done to stop it?
Get guns off the streets. And out of guns, people who don't need the guns to kill people.
Were you in favor of having this event today?
Yes.
Did the principal talk to you about it?
Yes.
And what did he say? What did you say?
He said that it's gonna be hell on Friday, and everybody can come outside and stand, hold their posters about gun violence should be stopped.
Thank you.
All right, come on, you're up next. Come on. You're up next, right here.
Let's go to the other.
Okay, wait, can you hear me real quick?
Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming,
There's too many
Daniel
crews.
Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter. All of these are Columbine victims. We stopped saying their names a long time ago, so until the end of this moment of silence, I will continue to repeat their names so you guys don't forget them. Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kyle Velasquez, Stephen Kernow, Cassie Burnell, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Ketcher, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, Corey DePuter, Rachel Scott, Daniel Rothbaugh, Dave Sanders.
In your lives to vote the right way. That is the only way that we're going to make change. And so I challenge you to be involved, please, so that we don't have situations. I've heard so many stories since I started this organization, Stop School Shootings Now. I talked to a 6th grader yesterday who wrote a will just in case he gets killed in a school shooting. Kids who won't wear, little kids. I'm not going to wear my light out shoes to school anymore because I don't want the shooter to see me. Another, my favorite story that I've heard that is just heartbreaking. A 5-year-old kindergartner has his first lockdown drill. And you guys have grown up with this. I don't think parents realize that you've gone through these drills your whole life. Your whole life. It's institutionalized fear. And we don't know about it, but we're learning about it. 5-year-old goes to kindergarten class, has his first lockdown drill. Mom hears about it, thinks the kid is pretty unfazed. They go out to dinner that night. They go to a restaurant. Mom takes the kid to the bathroom. Little kid gets in the bathroom, gets up on the toilet. Mom, get up on the toilet. You have to be quiet. You don't want the bad man to see you. You don't want to be shot. What is this? What is this? It is sick that I had to start a group called Stop School Shootings Now proves we are living in the upside down. We have got to change it. We have got to stop putting you guys through this. But you're the ones who are going to do it. You're the ones who are going to do it. I want to help you. Thank you for having me today, and I'm just so proud of you. And this installation breaks my heart. Thank you all.
Anything else you want to say, Steve? They're asking. No, we're good.
Morning, Lakeside.
Do you want to keep the shot up for now?
I'm State Senator Elena Parent, and I'm proud to represent the Lakeside community down in Atlanta at the state capitol. And it is my honor to be a voice for all of you and all of your parents and many thousands of others in DeKalb County when it comes to this issue. When I was about your age, I started thinking about America and guns. And it never, ever, I'm probably a little younger than y'all, it never, ever made any sense to me whatsoever why America approached guns the way we do. It makes no sense, it defies common sense, and it's sort of eating us alive from the inside. And we have got to change that. And you all are going to be a seminal generation in changing what is corroding America from the inside, our obsession with weapons and our failure to do anything about it. Let me tell you, I was, in 1999, I was pretty recently out of college. And I was back home, before I went to law school, I was back home living at my parents'. And I remember turning on the news, and there were all the reports and the images and the tears and the destruction and the blood and the guns from Columbine. And I'd never seen anything like that before.
We can guess estimate on where they'll be on their walk, or just head to the Capitol where they're heading.
Okay, that's good. So, good morning. Thank you for being here on this extremely cold day. I'm not wearing a jacket, but I did bring one. It's for you, Mom. So, my name is Kate Klein, and I'm a junior at Daniel Hand here in Madison. I'm one of the organizers of this event, and I will be your MC today. Lucky you guys. So, that group over there is my group. We're called Violence to Voices, and we've been organizing, yeah. A lot of you guys are parents to those people, so that's okay. So this event is brought to you by Violence to Voices. We are student-run, student-organized, student-formed, and student-led. We're a gun safety advocacy group dedicated to making this country safer and fighting for stricter gun laws that need to be passed in order to ensure this change. That's a really long run-on sentence, Claire. She wrote the script. So we are part of the national movement all across America that calls for our legislators to listen to us and enact the change that we want. So today, we're gathered here today because today marks the 19th anniversary of the Columbine High School shooting in Littleton, Colorado, a day where 2 armed students opened fire and killed 12 students and 1 teacher. Today we commemorate these victims and make our voice heard to ensure never again really means never again. Thank you. Thank you. 2,605 schools and counting have registered to walk out because most schools are actually in school today. Hundreds and thousands more schools will be doing it without registration. We rally today in solidarity with all of our peers, adults, and communities. We stand unified behind every victim of gun violence. At this time, please join me in taking 47 seconds of silence, one for every person under the age of 20 who is shot each day in the United States. We not only honor the victims of Columbine, but the victims of gun violence everywhere. Thank you. We've got a great event planned for you today. You'll be hearing speeches from student speakers and a local politician, along with a poem by a Parkland survivor. We have volunteers in orange. That's you guys, except they're not wearing their fashionable orange vests. So, who will be ready to assist you in any way they can. At the end of all the organized speeches, there will be an opportunity for everyone participating to speak in an open mic. We will be marching downtown at around 11 a.m. This is optional, but we hope you'll join us in making our voices heard. I'd also like to point out the various booths we have stationed around. Representatives, please stand up when I call your booth. We have members from the Advocates for Gun Safety. That's over there. There's no one there, but it's okay. We have advocates from Madison Youth and Family Services, which is over there. We have advocates from Moms Demand Action and the League of Women Voters of the East Shore. Throughout the rally, please feel free to walk around and peruse the various booths. Remember to register to vote at the League of Women's Voters booth. We want to accomplish 3 things at this rally and in future events. Hold elected officials accountable, promote solutions to gun violence, and number 3, demystify and engage students in the political system. Keep these messages in mind as we progress through the rally and ask yourself what you can do to ensure that these ideas actually happen. I'd now like to make some opening remarks to get this event started. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to change the world in whatever way possible. I wanted to do something big, something influential. Not so people would know my name, but so that I could make a mark on the world. so that I could help someone, provide change in any way. I still have my journals and to-do lists from that time, where next to an unchecked box I would write, "Save the world," or more specifically, "End poverty." These are rather optimistic aspirations for someone who not only couldn't drive, but really had no idea where to start. Then Sandy Hook happened. 6th grade. I saw the nation reawaken with calls for gun control, parents mourning the loss of their children in a place where they thought they would be safe. I wasn't alive during the Columbine shooting, and Sandy Hook was the most publicized shooting that I had seen. I couldn't sleep the days after the shooting. The first day, I couldn't comprehend it. I saw 20 faces of children plastered everywhere who I didn't know, but they each bore a haunting resemblance to my neighbors, my friends, my sister. The second day, it hit. A murderer actively sought out a group of children to kill in Connecticut. What was stopping someone from doing that in my school? To me. Still, our nation cannot seem to answer that question. I saw politicians erupt in prayers, in thoughts, in remembrances, but never in action. America is not only stuck in a stalemate of passivity, but we have begun to regress. There was and still is no time when America was great for everyone. Persecution of people based on their differences was the catalyst for America and continues to plague our nation. In fact, our nation has routinely relied on discrimination to do its dirty work. And we finally have a chance to change that. We have a platform to advocate for the silence. We have a platform to advocate for the silence, and we cannot and will not replace their voices, but we must amplify their screams for action. Without the unifying intersectionality of our movement, we are bound to fail. Without bringing together each student, parent, and politician who supports us, we are bound to fail. We cannot let more than 438 children who have died since Sandy Hook die in vain. We cannot let the 187,000 students who have experienced school shootings since Columbine relive their trauma each and every time we have a massacre. We cannot have another massacre. We cannot continue to blame students for ostracizing the shooters, for letting them sit alone at lunch, for not being kind enough to someone who would eventually kill their friends. This is not a kindness issue. This is a gun issue. We cannot let corrupt politicians dismiss each student with thoughts and prayers. They may be able to afford the thousands of deaths attributed to guns every day. In fact, they profit off of those deaths. But we as a nation cannot afford routine mass murders. We need action now. We need to remind our politicians that this is us. These are our children who are dying. And we will not rest until there is action. We gave them their power, and we can take it away. If they don't support the nation's children, we will vote them out. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call up John Michael Parker, an educator, artist, and organizer from Madison. He was on the founding team of the Future Project, a national education nonprofit that empowers young people to make change in their community. And he's also the lead singer of Great Caesar. Wow, that's cool. A band he started at Daniel Hand. Awesome. Now he's running for state representative in Connecticut's 101st district to represent Madison and Durham in the state legislature against Representative Kokaruda, who unfortunately could not attend today's rally. Please welcome Mr. Parker. Woo!
Hello, folks. I want to begin by thanking Claire and Eleanor and Jack and the other students for the invitation to be here with you today. It's a privilege, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I have some words that I'm going to mostly direct at the young people today. On April 20th, 1999, the day that 12 students and one teacher were killed in Columbine High School and another 24 injured, I was sitting in Mrs. Pliska's 5th grade classroom just behind us in Academy Elementary School. I'm sure I didn't understand death or terror or the profound brokenness that would lead someone to commit such an act. I didn't have to. I was just a fifth grader. And while I can barely comprehend even now the fear that my parents must have felt, I bet there was a tiny voice that whispered to them and to the parents across our community, not here, not in Connecticut. 8 years later, on April 16th, 2007, when 32 students and faculty members were gunned down at Virginia Tech, I was finishing my first year of college at Yale. As an 18-year-old living at school, I could imagine the nightmare of shots ripping out across campus and could feel firsthand the uneasiness that settled across our country in the wake of yet another school shooting. But did I do anything about it? No. Because somehow I could tell myself that it was still far away, that it wasn't happening here. And then 5 years later, on December 14th, 2012, the unthinkable happened, and 20 children and 6 adults were murdered here in our state at Sandy Hook Elementary. By then, I was a teacher myself, teaching 4th graders in New York City, and I understood viscerally the protective rage that springs up when you contemplate the horror of stealing the innocence and the lives from 6 and 7-year-old children. It felt then like something broke in our country, and we cried and marched and called for change. And then, just over 5 years later, we found ourselves yet again mourning the loss of life in the face of a school massacre, this time in Parkland, Florida. That we let this happen time and again in a country that was built on freedom and the right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness is unconscionable. But the truth is that this problem is so massive and complex and emotional and rooted in the deepest and darkest parts of not only our American democracy but our humanity that we haven't been able to fix it. In fact, it's so bad that many of us are willing to accept the disheartening notion that this is just the way things are in the United States, and that this is how things will always be. But I'm here because I believe, like every single one of you who showed up today, and every single person at the more than 2,000 sister rallies happening right now across the country, I believe it doesn't have to be this way, that we can do better, that we can make change. And not only do we believe it, we are hopeful for the first time in a long while that change may be closer than we thought. And that is for one simple reason. You. It is because of you, the students and young activists who are standing up and demanding change and displaying the moral courage that too many of the adults who ought to be protecting you are not. It's because of you that this time might be different. I'm here today because I'm inspired and fired up, and because I believe in you. And so, first of all, I want to thank you sincerely for doing what I didn't do 6 and 11 and 19 years ago, and demanding that our country do better. The story of our gun debate today is a shameful one. It's a story of massive corporate interests wielding power at the expense of human dignity and life. A story of the compromised integrity of those whose job it is to protect the lives of the people who put them in office. And a story of the disgustingly political, bitterly divisive hysteria that takes the focus away from what we should all be most concerned about. The lives of the young people in Columbine and Virginia Tech and Sandy Hook and Parkland and the hundreds of other schools and communities we don't even name in lists like this. Folks who have been also deeply shaken by gun violence. But here's the good thing. You, the young leaders of this movement, and the rising citizens whose voices will determine who gets to write and enact our laws, this shame does not belong to you. And it is clear on days like this that you have no intention of inheriting it.
the loopholes. It's time to improve background checks. It's time to identify predictively violent people and take their guns away. Will we be able to stop all the crimes? No. But that doesn't mean that we make it easy for these crimes to happen. So that rainy morning, when my teenager told me that no out for teenagers, I knew that she was right. And I know that I want to help fix it. So, when you can vote, vote. And never, ever stop speaking out. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Georgia State Senator Steve Henson from District 41.
Yeah, we're all in different districts, let's let you know. I'm honored to be here. You know, I went to Henderson High School when it was a high school. I've been around a long time. Thank you. And I remember when you could smoke on airplanes. You could smoke anywhere. If people had a party, they would give you free cigarettes to smoke. Things change. Policies can change. Laws can change. People's attitudes can change. And you are making that happen. You are changing the course of this nation in relation to guns and gun violence. In 2015, 36,000 Americans died of gun violence. And you know, when we talk about school safety, when we talk about shootings, we also must reflect and we must think safety means a lot of different things. You all know of children who have, or young people, adults, young men and women who have issues and have concerns. And I want you to be aware and reflect on the suicide rate in this country and the needs of your fellow students too. School safety is us all working together in so many ways to be better and be stronger and be safer. Now, as far as school safety, you know, when the governor in January instituted his state budget, there was no money, extra money for school safety programs. Because of the rallies, because of your interest, because of the March walkout, the State House put in $8 million for school safety. The State Senate put another $8 million in school safety. And we created programs that will help protect students. The sad thing is that is a drop in a bucket of what is needed. And we did some additional